Foundations era, making a move from Paleolithic to Neolithic so fast it will scare you. Agriculture making a boom, settled villages and civilizations become the norm, as one could assume. End products being patriarchy and job specialization. One could clearly see the incredible mass innovation. That's not all. We got technology rolling in to make the call. Everything from iron weaponry to pottery. This ain't no joke. People were making wealth like winning a lottery. After the classical era arrives, we got a rise of new religions like Buddhism and Christianity that provide salvation for people's lives. In China, we got Taoism and Confucianism making a show. Then in Rome, we got philosophy taught by our famous Aristotle and Plato. Places are becoming more centralized, like the Gupta Empire, where they have really long last names that'll leave you mesmerized. Most importantly, the Silk Roads are making their first presentation, thus putting an end to the horrors of economic constipation. Not only do the Silk Roads provide trade, but they also spread new ideas and diseases that China probably made. Post-classical, things are starting to get a little more Jurassical. Trade routes still growing. Now we got the new gold roads and the Saharan flowing. Migration is starting to kick up. Viking longships are making a show on the shores of Europe. Thanks to the Silk Roads, we got cultural diffusion. We got ideas about stuff like literature and religion coming together like nuclear fusion. New foods are spreading from different places. Champa rice spreading everywhere in thousands of cases. Then we got the Black Death killing lots of people, making everyone go plead for salvation at the church's steeple. But on a brighter note, we got lots of economic innovations, like guilds and terracing, making better and stronger nations. Early modern times, this is when exploration was in its prime. Spain and Portugal were showered in wealth, while the natives were depleting in health. Food crops were spread around the planet. An example would be the pomegranate. The Chinese got involved in the Indian Ocean. They wanted a part of the trade commotion. It was spearheaded by Zheng He, who dominated the world, even without a PP. While the Chinese were exploring the Pacific, the Europeans were in West Africa, to be specific. They were there to buy some slaves and carry them on their ships riding the waves. In the Middle East, things were getting Turkish, while the Americas were getting a little British.
Everyone is colonized except the Siamese. In Asia, the drugs are flowing free after the defeat of the Chinese. And in America, Napoleon sells New Orleans to start his wars of terror against the Allies. But he didn't account for a winter surprise. Revolutions broke out worldwide. South American, Haitian, and American threw the chains of oppression aside. And the English started a revolution of industry. This led to the power, to the big E.
What about Asia? Anything happened there too?
Of course, they had Zaibatsu. Japan came out of its shell and started wanting more. They seized Korea in the Russo-Japanese War. The Japanese became a world power. Soon they copied the whites and learned to devour. Africa became an easy meal for the European imperial wheel. At the Conference of Berlin, Europe decided the world would be better if they guided. Things are really heating up in the world as we approach 1914. The web of alliances created a tangled mess of countries. Soon everyone was fighting, with their colonies too. But in 1918, everyone caught the flu. The war ended with Germany, forced to stop dead, and with a new Russia, painted in red. For years, things were relatively peaceful, until the stocks crashed and became distasteful. The world experienced economic depressions that ended old regimes, but it also allowed one man to reach for his dreams. The Nazis came into power and started building up for war. It became a war the world had never seen before. Genocide, blitzkrieg, and nuclear weapons became the world's new center of attention. But in the Far East, new leaders emerged with political philosophies. Mao Zedong became the leader of the Chinese. After the end of World War II, the world was reborn anew. New organizations formed to keep the world intact: NATO, the UN, and the Warsaw Pact. Now the world's getting a little colder, with the Russians changing the world order. For 50 years this persisted, a war where everyone should be enlisted, even the nations that never existed. Colonial rule was weakened worldwide. Africa finally became free from the global apartheid. Then the Soviet Union fell to the ground, and finally the world became round. Everyone is interconnected, and global capitalism became protected, even against the ones who defected. Extremists took power in many different countries, inflicting pain on the population with atrocities. Sadly, though, they sit atop the oil, and they keep forcing the world into a hot coil. But there is a new enemy fighting in the world. It's causing countries to be swirled. Never before has the environment been a killer, but now we understand how industrialization has become a thriller. As we move to the future, China's growing stronger as their legacy continues growing longer.